Hello, everyone. Get ready to unlock a secret that most people don't fully grasp. But once you do, it will change how you see the world of business forever. This information is incredibly valuable, something that can truly empower your understanding, give you an edge. You're about to discover something fascinating and perhaps a little surprising. Let's dive into the captivating world of monopoly and microeconomics. First, what exactly is a monopoly? Imagine a market with only one seller that provides a specific product or service. This single seller has complete control over the supply. It's like having just one restaurant in an entire city. That restaurant can set its prices and rules because customers have no other options. This is the core idea of a monopoly. It comes from two Greek words, monos, meaning single, and polin, meaning to sell. So literally it means single seller. This market structure is different from perfect competition. Many sellers, or oligopoly, a few dominant sellers. Historically, monopolies have existed for a very long time. In ancient times, kings might grant exclusive rights to produce certain goods, like salt, to a single entity, often to raise revenue or reward loyal subjects. For example, in many historical empires, essential goods were often controlled by the state or favored individuals. These early forms were often based on political power or military control. Moving to the Industrial Revolution, we saw the rise of large corporations. These companies often grew so big they eliminated or absorbed competitors. Think about the late 19th and early 20th centuries in the United States. This era, the Gilded Age, saw powerful industrial magnates like John D. Rockefeller, Standard Oil, and Andrew Carnegie, Carnegie Steel. Standard Oil, for instance, controlled a huge percentage of oil. Refining in the U.S., allowing Rockefeller to dictate prices and terms, accumulating immense wealth. These industrial monopolies often achieved their status through aggressive strategies. They might use predatory pricing, temporarily lowering prices below cost to drive competitors out. Once gone, prices would rise. They also used mergers and acquisitions to consolidate power, buying smaller companies. Controlling key resources or transportation networks was another tactic, making it impossible for new competitors to enter. Railroads, for example, controlled vital transportation links. Economically, what are the characteristics of a monopoly? The most important is that there is only one seller in the market, facing no direct competition. Because of this, the monopolist has significant market power, the ability to affect the price. In a perfectly competitive market, firms are price takers. But a monopolist is a price maker. They can choose the price they want to charge, within limits set by demand, typically choosing a price that maximizes profits. Another key characteristic is high barriers to entry. These are obstacles that prevent new firms from entering. Without them, other firms would enter, and the monopoly would disappear. There are several types. One is control over a key resource. If a single firm owns all essential raw materials, others cannot enter. For example, a company owning the only diamond mine would have a diamond monopoly. Government regulation is another significant barrier. Governments can create monopolies by granting a single firm exclusive rights. This often happens with public utilities like water or electricity. The government might decide it's more efficient to have a single provider for these essential services, to avoid duplicating infrastructure and ensure universal access. In exchange, the government often regulates prices and service quality. Patents and copyrights are also government-created monopolies. A patent grants exclusive rights to an invention for a period, encouraging innovation. Copyrights protect artistic and literary works. Economies of scale can also lead to natural monopolies. An industry is a natural monopoly when a single firm can produce the entire market output at a lower cost than multiple firms. This occurs in industries with very high fixed costs and low marginal costs, like utility companies. Laying pipes for a water system or wires for an electricity grid is extremely expensive. Once built, the cost of serving an additional customer is low. Multiple companies building separate infrastructure would be inefficient. Technological superiority can also be a barrier. If a firm has unique technology that competitors cannot easily replicate, it can maintain a monopoly for a time. This gives them a significant competitive advantage. However, this can be temporary, as competitors may eventually innovate or imitate. So, how does a monopolist decide how much to produce? And at what price? A monopolist faces the entire market demand curve. If they want to sell more, they must lower their price. If they want to charge a higher price, they will sell fewer units. The monopolist's goal is to maximize profit. They do this by producing at the quantity, where marginal revenue equals marginal cost. Marginal revenue is the additional revenue from selling one more unit, and marginal cost is the additional cost from producing one more unit. After finding the profit-maximizing quantity, they use the demand curve to find the highest price. They can charge for that quantity. This price will typically be higher than the marginal cost. What are the implications of monopolies for society? Economically, monopolies are generally considered inefficient. In a perfectly competitive market, resources are allocated efficiently, and goods are produced at the lowest possible cost, sold at a price equal to marginal cost. Monopolies, however, produce less output and charge higher prices than a competitive market. This leads to a deadweight loss, a reduction in total surplus consumer and producer surplus due to market distortion. Consumers pay more and get less, and society loses out. Higher prices and lower output mean some consumers willing to buy at a lower competitive price are excluded. Monopolies can also lead to income inequality, concentrating wealth in the hands of a few through excessive profits. Another concern is complacency without competition. Monopolists may have less incentive to innovate, improve quality, or offer better customer service, as consumers have no alternatives. However, not all aspects of monopolies are entirely negative. Patents and copyrights, which create temporary monopolies, incentivize innovation. Without the prospect of exclusive profits, creatures might not invest time and resources in new ideas. These are a trade-off short-term, higher prices for long-term innovation benefits. Also, in natural monopolies, a single provider can be more efficient, as with public utilities. The challenge is regulating them to prevent abuse of power. In response to potential harms, governments often implement antitrust laws. These laws promote competition and prevent monopolies from forming or abusing power. In the U.S., legislation like the Sherman Antitrust Act of 1890 and the Clayton Antitrust Act of 1914 prohibit practices like price fixing, market division, and certain mergers that lessen competition. Regulatory bodies like the Federal Trade Commission and the Department of Justice enforce these laws. Governments might also regulate monopolies, especially natural monopolies. This can involve setting price caps, ensuring minimum service standards, or even nationalization. The goal is to mimic competitive market outcomes, balancing efficiency with consumer protection. To sum up, a monopoly is a market structure with a single seller and high barriers to entry. Historically, they emerged from political grants and industrial consolidation. Economically, they are characterized by market power, price-making ability, and generally lead to higher prices, lower output, and inefficiency. While they can incentivize innovation through patents, their overall impact often includes deadweight loss and fairness concerns. Governments play a crucial role in regulating and preventing monopolies to foster a more competitive economy. Understanding monopolies helps us analyze market dynamics and the role of government in shaping economic outcomes. Keep this knowledge with you, and you'll see the world with a whole new perspective. Here are 50 important English vocabulary words from this script, with their Korean explanations. 모노폴리 독점, 마이크로에코노믹스 미시경제학, 셀러 판매자, 프로덕트 상품, 서비스, 서플라이 공급, 컨트롤 통제, 마켓 시장, 컴피티션 경쟁, 오리고폴리 과점, revenue 수익, exclusive rights 독점권, corporation 기업, 법인, industrial revolution 산업혁명, magnetic 어물 재벌, refining capacity 정제 능력, predatory pricing 약탈적 가격 책정, mergers 합병, acquisitions 인수, consolidated 통합하다, key resources 핵심 자원, transportation networks 운송망, barriers to entry 진입 장벽, market power 시장 지배력, price maker 가격 결정자, price taker 가격 수용자, profiteer 수익, government regulation 정부 규제, public utilities 공공 서비스, patents 특허, copyrights 저작권, economies of scale 규모의 경제, fixed costs 고정 비용, marginal costs 한계 비용, natural monopoly 자연 독점, technological superiority 기술적 우위, demand curve 수요 곡선, marginal revenue 한계 수입, economic efficiency 경제적 효율성, deadweight loss 자중 손실 비효율적 손실, consumer surplus 소비자인겨, producer surplus 생산자인겨, income inequality 소득 불균형, innovation 혁신, antitrust laws 독점 금지법, price fixing 가격 담합, market division 시장 분할, regulatory bodies 규제 기관, Federal Trade Commission 연방거래위원회, nationalization 국유화,